Skarbrand, Bloodgod's greatest warrior versus Indomitable human spirit from a competitive multiplayer campaign. In this battle, we have got Skarbrand, played by one of the top players in the community, Brett, versus the Brettonian garrison and King Luen with his 16-stack army controlled by various players in the lobby. Just looking at the position here, this battle is largely a formality. Skarbrand, as you can see from his stats, is an absolute beast. He alone could wreck this whole place. But the indomitable human spirit had other ideas. Now, the initial goal for Skarbrand here is to take the least amount of damage as possible so that they can continue on their rampage. For Brettonia, on the other hand, their goal is to prevent exactly that. Their goal is to survive the first 6 minutes, wait for King Luen to arrive so that there is at least something that can stand up to Skarbrand, and might be able to use their flying advantage in order to do damage to Skarbrand. Now, Skarbrand also has regeneration, so any kind of damage dealt to him will be healed back up, and right now they are camping under the gate trying to break it down with their heroes. They took a bit of damage from those archers, and they continue to take a few pot shots here and there, but nothing major worth noting. They are building up these pole arms in front of the gates in order to build up bulk to stop Skarbrand and hold them in place while their anti-large is able to do damage to him and the heroes that he has. So it's generally stacking up like this, we call this blobbing, is a very, very bad idea. But Brettonia knows that Skarbrand does not have any spells, does not have any spellcasters in their army, so their ability to do area of effect damage is rather limited. And so they are taking the risk right here. So right here we see Brett doing the classic juking to waste the enemy's ammo. So when their main armies are coming in, they will take less damage overall. So you see these Chaos Chariots coming in and taking quite a bit of damage from those towers and from those archers, but the real fight is happening in front of the gate. Yeah, Skarbrand activated his Raging Hornet, driving everything around him into a frenzy, into a rampage. He also has War Feast, which gives him another source of healing as long as he's in melee. Right now, with his stats, his health bar is not even going down. Now we have Horn's Chariots coming in. This is probably not a good play because while Skarbrand is an unstoppable beast, the same thing cannot be said for these chariots, and they are taking significant damage from these little pokes here and there. Well, this motorcycle Blood Reaper is doing little donuts around the place. Now, these chariots have went from about having half a health to essentially dead with the charge from these Grail Knights. The Grail Knights are the primary cavalry of Brettonia with their anti-large. So the late game Brettonia armies are filled with those Grail Knights. They're trying to do as much damage as possible. All these archers have been positioned to the other side in order to be able to fire, which is where wasting their ammunition becomes a significant move. Now, Skarbrand, of course, went to do his own thing to wipe out those catapults. Again, generating as much value as possible, protecting his own troops in that way. While he's out doing that, these cavalry are taking their positions in order to cycle charge into this massive, massive blob. And if Brettonian reinforcements manages to arrive before this is resolved, they will have the opportunity to cast Comet of Cassandora, which will kill just about anything it hits. It will be a massive blow to Thorn and could even swing the battle, assuming Skarbrand does not survive. And we got these Knights of the Realm being getting baited by Skarbrand. Now we got hundreds of troops pouring inside the city of Coron, just smashing through those Brettonian peasants. The Brettonian archers, on the other hand, are still shooting inside, still doing damage. Brettonian knights are moving from left and right, trying to surround, trying to do at least a bit of damage. One of their heroes is out of position here, which could cause him to lose the rest of his health. And of course, it's not going to be an easy fight. We are talking about Horn, the melee faction, the ones who live for this engagement, for hand-to-hand combat, and that's exactly what they're good at, and that's exactly what they're doing. So the important things that they gotta watch for here are these separated heroes, Skarbrand and his Blood Reaper, and the main army, because every second they spend inside the city is another second they are getting shot at and take damage. After all, the goal for Skarbrand is to take the least amount of damage. Now, Brettonia succeeded in their primary objective. The reinforcements has arrived, and they're armed with a damsel, with Ranon's Thunderbolt, but most importantly, Comet of Cassandora. You just look at these massive values. These values are deceiving because they do absolutely devastating damage everywhere they land. And Brettonia still has a decent bit of their garrison left. They have managed to slow down the enemy advance and hold this tower, which does decent damage over time. Ooh, what is that? The trebuchets that were left alone are firing onto this group that is trying to capture this strategic point. Slowly, the reinforcements is trickling in. The last bit of the Khorne reinforcements has come in, but what's that? They weren't getting their orders, and so the towers have managed to do a decent bit of damage. Once again, Khorne troops are piled on top of each other, which is allowing these towers to do massive bits of damage with each shot, maximum damage for the Brettonian archers. But all of this is due to overconfidence. After all, who could stop the great Skarbrand in his rampage? Skarbrand has not even taken any damage. He's level 36 with almost 1,000 melee weapon strength. And now, Khorne, having had broken through the first line of defenses, the second line of defenses is now headed to the third line of defense, which is this final castle area. So there's going to be a few defensive positions that Brettonia might be able to take, but if they aren't quick enough, Brettonia might get in position to form defensive lines on this minor supply location. So Brettonian artillery has just been destroyed by Skarbrand, as it was expected. King Luen is looking at the battle, trying to position for a good hit on his potential targets. King Luen's Pegasus Knights are hitting the backline. They're going through the backlines of those bloodletters that are left behind without micro, And this is why, kids, it always pays to have a friend. This is clear case of just having more players, more micro on the field. And now you see that cavalry eating up the backlines of the foreign army, and now they have to decide, are they going to keep pushing? Are they going to retreat to deal with those cavalry? They chose to pull back to deal with the cavalry, but the cavalry has already finished their job, has done a tremendous damage on these exalted bloodletters, on these chaos warriors of Khorne. Just the health bars are dropping everywhere. Skarbrand is not standing idle, and he is going for the damsel. He misses his hit and instead goes for the cavalry. Now, realizing that the damsel is in peril, she is going to leave and going to be marshalling her winds of magic in order to cast probably either lightning or a comet of Cassandora. And would you look at that? That was a comet of Cassandora that landed and has killed just about anything that was standing in that area. There was a bit of a friendly fire, but that is okay. All of these units are routing or getting disintegrated. Now we've got, what is that spell? Oh, First of the Midnight Wind, which lowers their attack and their armor, creating a perfect opportunity for Brettonia to get in some damage. You can see these units have very little health left, and Skarbrand has finally came in and is going to punish Luen for his arrogance of landing and trying to do damage to his army. At this point, Brettonia does not have much hope of defeating Skarbrand one-on-one, but Skarbrand has taken a little bit of damage from that pull through. King Luen lost a quarter of his health just from a few hits from Skarbrand, as it usually goes. Now that Blood Reaper hero has taken quite a bit of damage, more than half of his health. Now he is regenerating with Gore Feast. And now the troops that had pulled back, they are also getting attacked despite their halberds, because the impact damage is still not stopped by those armies. And if they cannot brace, the charge is still going to apply. And we've got a lightning bolt coming down on those troops fighting on the front. There's very little hope left for Skarbrand's armies. That lack of coordination really cost them the rest of their troops. There's very little bit of them left. As you can see, they have a couple of healthy units over there which are getting disassembled by the cavalry charging in left and right. And Skarbrand, while he is doing his best, this is a battle and not a bar fight, and so this partial removal of the enemy forces, all these archers have done tremendous value for their cost. 1,000 value out of peasant bowmen, that is massive for them. They managed to shoot all of their shots, and another comet of Cassandora with another lightning goes down that wipes out an entire unit of the Skarbrand's infantry. So with that, what else is left? The hero that was over here, I think he just died. I think Luen wiped him out. This Blood Reaper, yeah, as I said, he's healing up, but there's very little infantry left, and it's all blobbed up. And Brettonia can punish these guys with that lightning spell. And what is that? Is that another comet of Cassandora? Nope, that is a lightning bolt. The punishment has came quick. It wasn't very effective, but these guys are very heavily wounded. All it will take is a couple of charges to finish them off. Now these knights are baiting Skarbrand out of position so that the rest of their forces can come in and deliver the killing blow. Skarbrand realizes what is happening, but it is too late. The cavalry has connected. Skarbrand is going to get his due. He's gonna get his pound of flesh. But what's done is done, and all of that infantry is now either getting banished or is getting routed off of the battlefield. The Shield of Khorne is debuffing everything in the area, leaving these infantry routed from the battlefield. All what Brettonia has to do now is to keep them routing, keep them out of the fight, so that way they can now deal with the main threat, which is Skarbrand and his heroes. But what will they do? We are talking about Khorne's most powerful bloodthirster demon, who is piloted by one of the best players in the community. What can Brettonia pull to turn this into a win? So, by the miracle that they have pulled on the battlefield, and that they're still pulling, they're still cycle charging, they have managed to equalize the fight. The power balance is currently right in the middle, maybe even a little bit in favor of Brettonia, but they have very few ranged units left that might be able to do some damage. Skarbrand keeps taking damage, and he keeps on getting back up, keeps getting healed back up with his regeneration. So now, pretty much all the infantry is gone. This is probably the most Brettonia could do at this point, and right now, anything extra is a bonus. Maybe get those heroes, but with this kind of stat line, Skarbrand should be able to finish up the battle. Now, Brettonia is doing the classic. They're distracting them and are going for their main objective, which are these infantry. Because should they lose, any surviving soldier is going to go back to Skarbrand's army. So, Skarbrand has reactivated his Rage Incarnate ability, which puts all the units around him into a rampage. And that's exactly why everything has just started attacking him. Oh, and it broke right before he could get any decent hits on King Luen. But regardless, those Pegasus Knights have lost a quarter of their health just from that little engagement. And so, all what Khorne is left is four people, 4 bodies left on the battlefield. In fact, 3 with the wipeout of their last unit. So even if Khorne survives, with the Demon's Reforged, they might be able to get some of their demonic units back. But now it's all about heroes. So Brettonia is taking back that little plaza that they took, that the Skarbrand took earlier from them, pushing Skarbrand back to the walls as the first defensive line. Now let's see if Skarbrand is able to adjust his tactics and stop playing the game that the Brettonia has been playing with them and winning. Okay, so Skarbrand and his 2 buddies over here have decided to ignore the capture point and head straight into the plaza. All they have to do is capture this key building and the final victory plaza in order to win the battle. So, since their territorial claims cannot be contested, after all, there is really nothing that can stand up to these 3 guys in melee. That could be the win condition. Now, all of this time, Brettonia has been saving their supplies to build level 4 towers, which are designed to fight against large units of infantry. As we have seen, they are still able to do a decent bit of damage should they get a good hit on single entity monsters, such as Skarbrand. What is Skarbrand doing? They must have realized the direness of their situation and went from an easy win to a complete slog that they have to go through. This barricade has been erected with those supplies that Brettonia accumulated. It is now delaying all of Skarbrand's forces. which allows them to gain even more supplies to build even more defenses. But what else does Brettonia have left? Most of their cavalry has been killed. Main infantry that they've got are these men-at-arms, which can only hold these characters for can only hold these monsters for a few seconds at best. And of course the archers, these peasant bowmen are pretty much one of the best tools that Brettonia has left in their arsenal to do damage to Skarbrand. King Luen had recovered his health with his built-in regeneration, has activated his buffs, and is trying to get a few hits in on those heroes. The win condition for Brettonia is now to go for army loss, because Skarbrand is not unbreakable. Brettonia is going for a massive dive. King Luen is protected by his mass of infantry that is protecting him from Skarbrand's blows. They are just getting on his hooves and stopping him from moving. But he still took a couple of hits and managed to dish out a couple of hits, and this is the best that they can really get at this point. And now, with this Blood Reaper reaching his regeneration capacity, any damage that they receive is permanent, but Skarbrand is also taking a little bit of damage from those archers, from those trebuchets and those towers. They are adding up. So every second spent here is another bit of damage that is being done to this behemoth of battle. And now this Blood Reaper is now down to his 1200 health. This is only like 2 or 3 hits from King Luen. And they realize the person that they need to go for is this damsel. This damsel is a very fragile spellcaster. She's probably out of Winds of Magic at this point, or pretty close to. But Brettonia cannot afford to lose this damsel, because that is going to influence the power balance and can cause Brettonia to lose outright. But Skarbrand just cannot decide what target he should go for. Instead, he's running around on his motorcycle, taking in the scenery, while Brettonian forces are dividing and conquering the last 3 monsters that Khorne has. Skarbrand is being held by these mounted yeomen, this tier 1 weakest cavalry. This right here is the Indomitable human spirit right there. Just standing against a demon they cannot even begin to comprehend the power of, and still they fight. And finally, King Luen finishes the Exalted Hero, and now it is Blood Reaper's turn. Also, the Midnight Wind goes down. It is one of the cheaper spells in the lower heavens that the Brettonia is able to use, and is very useful in this case. This is not one of the spells that are regularly used, but this is a special case where this is applicable. So King Luen is close to reaching to his regeneration capacity. Skarbrand is probably not too far behind, but most importantly, this Blood Reaper is unstable, which means he's taking damage every second no matter what, and he goes down. Now the only thing that is left is Skarbrand, this absolute behemoth, this unstoppable machine of battle. Will he be able to carry the fight to victory, or is he going to fall to the Indomitable human spirit? King Luen has realized he is fighting an equivalent of Satan, and decided to just leave and let his other men do a bit of work. Which is a good idea, because he will need every piece of health that he can have. He's the only one who can do any significant amount of damage to Skarbrand. Only reason he's still alive is thanks to his flying mount. Now Skarbrand has realized it is useless to fight these guys, and instead is going to go for the capture point forcing all the Brettonian forces to retreat and fight on his turf that he is about to create. Let's see how will the Brettonian respond. At this point, almost all of the Brettonian forces are very tired. Ooh. Skarbrand used one of his limited fire breath abilities on that cavalry. Very good option. Bellow of Endless Fury. Can only use it while he's out of melee. And he finds that damsel out of position. Activates Raging Carnage, forces her to engage, and she's almost dead at last hit. And the damsel goes down within a matter of 3 seconds. King Luen is not going to stand for that kind of slight and is going to do as much damage as he can to Skarbrand. Skarbrand has almost reached his healing capacity for the battle. He's killed 411 people with a gold value of 8,000, close to a 9,000. This is incredible, even for Skarbrand. And now Brettonia is throwing everything, literally everything that they have left to this bloodthirster. The last few cavalry go down. We've got these few Knights of the Realm left. Now, fortunately, King Luen has his Shield of Corone that debuffs Skarbrand into a much more manageable enemy. With his 34 defense, just about anything can get a hit in at this point. While his attack might be massive, he's still just one gigantic monster. But he is not invincible. He is far from it. Now, King Luen needs to be very careful because he's almost dead. And all that Brettonia needs to do is survive. Skarbrand has realized that he got distracted once again. This whole time, all of these sacrifices were for only reason, and that is to build towers to do damage to Skarbrand. Now, in order for Skarbrand to capture the final plaza, he needs to hold this one last victory point. Ooh, he gets a very good hit from an elevated position on those mounted yeomen that slowed him down in the past, that were used as a distraction. Oof, that's some friendly fire for the Brettonian towers. Skarbrand goes back in to finish off those mounted yeomen. But will that be enough? Remains to be seen. Now he's trying to contest this plaza, but he's moving inside and out. I think he knows that he does not have enough capture power to do it, so he needs to change his strategy into killing as many Brettonian units as possible and hopefully finish off King Luen. We will see. Will that be enough? These spearmen at arms, while being just very weak spears, they do have an anti-large, a bonus versus large of 15. That still gives them a respectable amount of damage against this giant bloodthirster. So what is happening right now is that Skarbrand is trying to dodge these towers. He's getting fired at by these 2 towers, and Brettonia is retreating to recover their stamina, which is going to influence their combat statistics. So he's doing the classic dodge. He stopped for some reason. Let's speed things up because we're currently in a bit of a juke phase, waiting to see what happens. They sent in their mounted yeomen and they got wiped out. Ooh, we forgot about those little peasant bowman archers. And with the Skarbrand capturing this key building, these towers are automatically destroyed. Had he been a bit more focused on that and on that strategy, he probably could have done that a lot sooner, but Brettonia has let him capture that for a reason, and we're going to find out why. Now, the only capture point left for Skarbrand is this final plaza, and if they do capture it, they will start ticking. They'll start gaining the victory points that will allow them to win outright. Which is probably the most likely case that they are going to attempt to win. Now, Brettonia did allow Skarbrand to capture this location, but that doesn't mean that they're going to let him hold it. So they are sending in their Pegasus Knights, which have just got stumped into the ground, to prevent Skarbrand from taking this final point, because should this key building fall, this final location is going to be locked again. So let's see how they do. What is Brettonia planning? Okay, they decided to commit to contesting the capture, hoping that they will be able to capture this plaza, which they just did before any kind of victory tickets started flowing. They have captured this final plaza. They have consolidated their forces. Their last bit of peasant infantry, and King Lewin himself with 1200 health against Skarbrand with his 3000 health. They both have reached their healing capacity, so this is as much health as they're going to get. Finally, these peasant archers with no ammunition left are going to be the ones standing against a Balrog, the strongest Balrog in the Warhammer universe. Just look at that! Skarbrand just ran through these guys, killing dozens with just a single charge through. Look at all this blood. He is going it again! That's another dozen people dead in a single charge. Skarbrand is not even fighting, he's just kicking these poor peasants around. Now these bowmen that had left a little bit of their ammunition left is, as I said before, is probably the best answer Brettonia has to Skarbrand's remaining health pool. Skarbrand is coming in again for another kickoff, kills another half dozen men, and runs through the infantry once again. Barely taking any damage. Took less than 50 damage, but he just got stopped by those massive bodies of dead men. And King Lewin is finally fighting him, but he only has 100 health left. One more hit, and King Lewin will be toast. And King Lewin has just went down after the fire-breathing attack of Skarbrand. Skarbrand has only 1,000 health remaining against nothing but poor, tired, ill-equipped Brettonian peasants and one Knight of the Realm with his 77 health who is about to get pounded into the ground, most likely. Just like that. Yeah, nothing is surviving that kind of attack. Skarbrand activated Crown of Command, but he has taken enough damage to push him into the banished territory. The laws of physics have triumphed. The indomitable human spirit has defeated the strongest bloodthirster in the Warhammer universe. And now all what these peasants have to do is survive for a few more seconds, and they win, ladies and gentlemen. This is exactly why you should never give up in a battle, or in anything really, despite the overwhelming odds, because if you just play your cards right, you might be able to win. Well, thank you everybody for joining me, and I will see you next time, hopefully in a long war video.